Quranic Laws, Qawaneen. By G.A. Parwez. Translated by Dr. Abdul Wadud. Chapter 7. Protection of Life. The Importance of Human Life. 1. The Israelites were ordained that if they killed a single person unjustly, it would be taken as if they had destroyed the whole of mankind, and if they saved a single person's life, it would be as if they had saved the whole of mankind. This verse is very important. 532.
من أجل ذلك كتبنا على بني إسرائيل أنه من قتل نفسا بغير نفس أو فساد في الأرض فكأنما قتل الناس جميعا ومن أحياها فكأنما أحيا الناس جميعا.
The story of the two sons of Adam, which was on everybody's lips among the Israelites, in fact represented their own emotional state of being ever ready to kill one another. That is why we ordained that if anyone slew a person, unless it be life for life in case of a murder, or it be as a punishment for spreading mischief in the land, it would be as if he slew the whole of mankind, and if anyone saved a life, it would be as if he saved the whole mankind. The believers are ordained not to kill one another. 429.
ولا تقتلوا أنفسكم. 2.
Allah has sanctified human life. It is therefore a crime to take a life except for a just cause, that is for being subject to the dictates of the divine law. 2568, 1733, 6152.
ولا تقتلوا النفس التي حرم الله إلا بالحق.
Allah has made the life of a human being sacred, nor should one take a life except for its being subject to the divine law. 3. It is the duty of an Islamic state to pursue the crime of murder and punish the offender. 178-179.
أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم القصاص في القتل الحر بالحر والعبد بالعبد والأنثى بالأنثى فمن عفي له من أخيه شيء فاتباع بالمعروف وأداء إليه بإحسان ذلك تخفيف من ربكم ورحمة فمن اعتدى بعد ذلك فله عذاب أليم ولكم في القصاص حياة يا أولي الألباب لعلكم تتقون.
O you who believe! You are ordained to pursue the case of a murderer and punish the criminal according to law. It means that it should not be taken as a personal case between the murderer and the relatives of the murdered. It should be considered a crime against the society or the system, which should take it into its own hands. As regards its punishment, the principles of justice and equity must be kept in mind, so that there should be no difference between big or small. The real issue is that of justice, according to which every human life is equally valued. The individual human beings are equal. For example, if the murderer is a free man, the same free man shall get punishment, and if the murderer is a slave, the same slave shall be punished. If she is a woman, her being a woman cannot save her, she must get punishment. The crime of murder can be of two kinds, I, willful murder, or, the second, murder by mistake. The punishment for willful murder is death, not blood money or compensation, or anything less than the maximum punishment. 493. In any case the punishment should not exceed the extent of crime. 4240, 1733.
ولا تقتلوا النفس التي حرم الله إلا بالحق ومن قتل مظلوما فقد جعلنا لوليه سلطانا فلا يسرف في القتل إنه كان منصورا.
But if the murder is not by intent or premeditated, but the result of a mistake, inadvertent, the punishment shall be blood money, compensation, according to 492. If the heir of the person slain willfully wants to give a remission in the amount settled, he can do so. In such a case it is necessary for the guilty to abide by what has been settled and make payment in a commendable manner. In the fixing of the punishment for an inadvertent murder, your sustainer has given a relief, so that your capabilities may continue to flourish. But if anybody commits excess after the settlement of the case, he shall receive grievous punishment. Leaving aside superficial emotionalism, if one ponders deeply and dispassionately, this reality shall come to the surface that in this law of pursuing the case of a murder, the secret of your collective life is hidden. This saves you from the dangers of lawlessness. At yet another place it is said, 1733, Allah has declared the life of an innocent one is sacred. 532. Nor take life which Allah has made sacred except when it is required by law. 178. And if anyone is slain wrongfully, the murderer should not assume that he cannot be taken to account because there is nobody to help or stand by the heirs of the slain person. We have made the divine order powerful and authoritative for the support and help of his heirs. Therefore this order would provide them patronage, stand by them, and pursue and punish the crime, but it is important for the social order not to exceed bounds. It shall execute the punishment within the bounds of the law. 6152, 4240. 4. The Israelites were ordained life for life, eye for eye, nose for nose, ear for ear, tooth for tooth, also wounds for wounds, yet room was left for pardon. 545.
وكتبنا عليهم فيها أن النفس بالنفس والعين بالعين والأنف بالأنف والأذن بالأذن والسن بالسن والجروح قصاص فمن تصدق به فهو كفارة له ومن لم يحكم بما أنزل الله فأولئك هم الظالمون.
In the case of Israelites we ordained therein for them life for life, eye for eye, nose for nose, ear for ear, tooth for tooth and for other wounds like for like. But if the plaintiff forgives, it shall become the atonement for the crime. This was the law of retaliation, punishment, which was given in their books. They ought to have made decisions accordingly, because those who fail to judge, in the light of what Allah has revealed, do not act justly and are the ones who transgress the divine limits. 5. As it has been said before, premeditated murder and inadvertent or unintentional murder are two separate cases. For murder without intent it is said, 492.
وما كان لمؤمن أن يقتل مؤمنا إلا خطأ ومن قتل مؤمنا خطأ فتحرير رقبة مؤمنة ودية مسلمة إلى أهله إلا أن يصدقوا فإن كان من قوم عدو لكم وهو مؤمن فتحرير رقبة مؤمنة وإن كان من قوم بينكم وبينهم ميثاق فدية مسلمة إلى أهله وتحرير رقبة مؤمنة فمن لم يجد فصيام شهرين متتابعين توبة من الله وكان الله عليما حكيما.
Never should a believer kill a believer, except when by mistake if one, so, kills a believer, it is ordained that he should free a believing slave and pay compensation to the family of the deceased, 178, unless they forgive it as an act of grace. If the deceased belonged to a people at war with you and he was a believer, the freeing of a believing slave is enough. If he belonged to a people with whom you have a treaty of mutual alliance, compensation should be paid to his family, along with freeing a believing slave. For those who find this beyond their means, it is prescribed for them that they should fast for 2 months running. This shall be considered sufficient cause for forgiveness by the divine law, for Allah is all-knowing, all-wise. And for willful murder it is said, 493.
ومن يقتل مؤمنا متعمدا فجزاؤه جهنم خالدا فيها وغضب الله عليه ولعنه وأعد له عذابا عظيما.
If one kills a believer with intent, punishment for this unjust killing is death, 532, but after death, he shall also go to hell to abide therein, forever, and the wrath and curse of Allah shall be upon him and a dreadful penalty is prepared for him, he shall be deprived of the rights of citizenship and shall be given severe punishment. Thus it is clear that blood money is allowed only in an unintentional murder, not in willful murder. Punishment for willful, premeditated, murder is death. 6. Killing the offspring is prohibited. But as has been said earlier, here murder may mean to deprive them from education and proper nurture as well as actual killing. 652, see also, 6141, 1731, 6012.
ولا تقتلوا أولادكم من إملاق. 7.
The destruction of crops and cattle or human race is a sedition. For despotic rulers it is said, 205.
وإذا تولى سعى في الأرض ليفسد فيها ويهلك الحرث والنسل والله لا يحب الفساد.
When these people get sovereignty and rule in the land, they aim at destruction and desolation all around, and destroy crops and human race, also cattle. Neither the system of economy, nor the political system remains intact. They only seek self-interest and do not care if the country goes to hell. Allah, whom they invoke at every step, does not like destruction or desolation. Note, as it has been said earlier, it is not only sufficient to punish such persons as are guilty of these crimes, it is incumbent upon the government to compensate the affected people for the loss of life and property. It is the duty of the government either to compensate the loss by itself or make the offenders pay. It is of no concern to the heirs as to who pays. For them the government becomes the respondent because it takes the responsibility for the protection of life, wealth, chastity, honor and property of the peaceful citizens. If any of these things is lost, except when it is due to the carelessness, negligence and apathy of the owner himself, it shall mean that the government has not fulfilled its responsibility. Thus the claim for loss shall be against the government and not directly against the culprits. Chapter 8. Protection of Property. 1. Protection of property. To eat up one another's property unlawfully is a crime, 188.
ولا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل.
Do not eat up your property among yourselves unlawfully has been ordained by Allah. B. As regards the property of orphans, it has been said emphatically not to eat it up in a wrong way, 4:6, also 17:3-4, 6:153.
وابتلوا اليتامى حتى إذا بلغوا النكاح فإن آنستم منهم رشدا فادفعوا إليهم أموالهم ولا تأكلوها إسرافا وبدارا أن يكبروا ومن كان غنيا فليستعفف ومن كان فقيرا فليأكل بالمعروف فإذا دفعتم إليهم أموالهم فأشهدوا عليهم وكفى بالله حسيبا.
And provide proper nurturing to the orphans and keep monitoring as to how far their potentialities are developing, until they reach the age of marriage, or maturity, 6:153, 17:34, 40:67, if then you find maturity or intellect in them, release their property to them but, if they are not yet mature, do not consume it wastefully, nor in a haste against their growing up. As far as the protection of their property and the compensation for their upbringing is concerned, if the guardian is well off, let him claim no remuneration. But if he is indigent, let him take what is just and reasonable. When you release their property to them, take witnesses to the transfer. And while accounting for it, keep it in mind that you are presenting the account to Allah who knows what is hidden as well as manifest. See, the way the religious leaders eat up the property of the people is also a crime, 9:34.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن كثيرا من الأحبار والرهبان ليأكلون أموال الناس بالباطل ويصدون عن سبيل الله.
O you who believe! There are indeed many among the priests and monks who, in falsehood, devour the substance of men and hinder them from the way of Allah, because if people started following the divine laws, their leadership would come to an end. As a matter of fact those, except the disabled, who eat up others' property without putting in labor, eat it up wrongly. The priests and monks are on the top of such list. They do not earn their livelihood by putting in labor but lead their life on what others earn. Next to the priestly class, on the list, are the capitalists who on the basis of their wealth usurp the outcome of others' labor. Thus in the first part of verse 9:34, the priestly class is mentioned and in the later part the capitalists are mentioned. If you ponder over it deeply, the priestcraft is the worst form of capitalism, because a capitalist, after all, spends something in order to increase his capital, but the priests eat up others' property without spending a penny, and thus the Holy Quran has ordained that it is an unlawful method of earning livelihood. D. Do not obtain decision in your favor by means of bribery. The first part of the verse, 2:188, has been described earlier. The complete verse is as follows, 2:188.
تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل وتدلوا بها إلى الحكام لتأكلوا فريقا من أموال الناس بالإثم وأنتم تعلمون.
And do not eat up your property among yourselves wrongfully, nor use it as a bait for the judges, if the case lies with the court, with intent that you may eat up wrongfully a part of what rightfully belongs to others. You know what results it would produce. E. Keep your measures and weights proper and just. Thus it has been said as a matter of principle, 6:152, also, 17:35, 7:85.
وأوفوا الكيل والميزان بالقسط.
Give measures and weights with full justice. This has been explained further by saying, 83:1-3.
ويل للمطففين الذين إذا اكتلوا على الناس يستوفون وإذا كالوهم أو وزنوهم يخسرون.
The result of wrongful business-mindedness and capitalist mentality can be nothing but destruction. People of such attitude, when they are on the receiving end, take by full measure, but when they have to give to others, they give short of weight. They take full work from the workers, but pay them less and themselves earn more. They not only deal with the property in this manner, their mentality remains the same even in evaluating humans in order to keep their potentialities suppressed so that their full growth is restrained and only allowed to develop so far as it is beneficial for the capitalists' interests. They do not permit them any more freedom. F. Easy money, Maisir. The term is commonly used for gambling, but it is a comprehensive term which includes all means of earning easy money. According to the Holy Quran, the loss inherent in such earning is more than the gain, 2:219.
يسألونك عن الخمر والميسر قل فيهما إثم كبير ومنافع للناس وإثمهما أكبر من نفعهما.
O Rasul! They ask thee about khamr, psychoactive substances which put them in an altered state of mind, and maisir, acquiring easy money. Tell them that the long-term adverse effects of both are far more than their temporary and short-term benefits. 590-91.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا إنما الخمر والميسر والأنصاب والأزلام رجس من عمل الشيطان فاجتنبوه لعلكم تفلحون إنما يريد الشيطان أن يوقع بينكم العداوة والبغضاء في الخمر والميسر ويصدكم عن ذكر الله وعن الصلاة فهل أنتم منتهون؟
O you who believe! Intoxicants and gambling, dedication to stones and divination by arrows which have been described in 2:19 and 5:3 are abominations of Satan's handiwork, which suppress human faculties of intellect and vision. Eschew such abominations, so that they do not become an obstacle in the way of your success. If you become accustomed to such habits as wine and gambling, in order to satisfy your baser passions, in addition to its bringing about your personal debility, it shall cause enmity and hatred amongst you and hinder you from the establishment of the system of Salat. Will you not, then, abstain, after such a lucid explanation? The Holy Quran has not ordained the punishment for intoxicants and gambling, but it has been left for the Islamic State to determine them according to its own circumstance. G. Raffle and lottery. This is also included in easy money. The word divination by arrows in 590 and 5:3 means lottery. 2. Theft. The punishment for stealing is amputation of hands whether the thief is a man or a woman. 538.
والسارق والسارقة فاقطعوا أيديهما جزاء بما كسبا نكالا من الله والله عزيز حكيم.
Thief, may it be a male or a female, are both equally guilty. There is no discrimination in their punishment. However, a way should be devised in which the thieves themselves abstain from stealing, and which also becomes an obstacle in the way of violating the divine law. It means that it serves as a curative for the offender and as a preventive for others. But if you find that the matter has reached the extreme and the thefts have become rampant, the extreme punishment can be to cut off the thief's hand. Anyhow, the aim is to check the crime, either by force or by planning. These are both included in the words. But the following has also been said along with the above. 539.
فمن تاب من بعد ظلمه وأصلح فإن الله يتوب عليه إن الله غفور رحيم.
As the objective is to check the crime, thus, if the thief repents after his crime and assures to mend his conduct, a provision has been made in the divine law, to protect such a person from punishment and deprivation from the common privileges of life. This words not only mean amputation of hands, it also means, I, to inflict wounds on the hands, as you find in the story of Joseph in 1331, or 2, to cause obstruction in some working as for example, cutting the tongue, means to check from unnecessary talk. Even in 538.
نكالا من الله.
It has been called that is an obstruction caused by Allah himself. Note the last note under the heading murder also applies to cases of theft, that is, it shall be the responsibility of the government to make good the loss by theft. 3. Loan. The dealings of giving or taking loan ought to be reduced to writing. The Holy Quran has provided guidance about the nature of writing and the way it should be written. However, it is not required to put hand-to-hand transactions, over-the-counter transactions, into writing. A. It should be written by a scribe. Loanee or his guardian should dictate. There should be 2 male witnesses. If 2 males are not available, then 1 male and 2 females. The scribe or witnesses should not be harmed in any way. All these details are given in 2:282, which has been explained earlier. In our view, these details come under directives rather than under laws. B. The loanee ought to be provided facility for the payment of loan, and if he is so poor that he is unable to pay back the loan, he ought to be excused for it. The relevant verse, 2:280, shall appear under the heading usury. 4. Mortgage, pledge. In case the loan transaction is made during a journey and no scribe is available for writing, a pledge with possession of some article that belongs to the loanee is allowed. But in case the loanee is a reliable person, writing is not necessary. Thus it is said, 2:283,
وإن كنتم على سفر ولم تجدوا كاتبا فرهان مقبوضة فإن أمن بعضكم بعضا فليؤدي الذي أؤتمن أمانته وليتق الله ربه.
If you are on a journey and cannot find a scribe, a pledge with possession may serve the purpose, but if trust exists between the parties, pledge is not necessary. In case when neither the transaction has been reduced to writing, nor a pledge has been taken, then, the loanee should honestly and faithfully return the loan and thus exhibit his submission to the divine law. 5. Riba, interest on loan. As it shall be described under the heading Economic System, according to the Holy Quran, a return is only due on one's labor, not on capital. The return on capital is usury, be it in any form. The capital alone can only be paid back in place of capital and not any interest on it. In view of the importance of this issue, the verses pertaining to it shall be described in a sequence. To begin with, look at the effects and the dangerous results of usury. 275.
الذين يأكلون الربا لا يقومون إلا كما يقوم الذي يتخبطه الشيطان من المس، ذلك بأنهم قالوا إنما البيع مثل الربا وأحل الله البيع وحرم الربا، فمن جاءه موعظة من ربه فانتهى فله ما سلف وأمره إلى الله ومن عاد فأولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون.
On one side are the people who by cutting down their own needs to the minimum, fulfill the necessities of others, 59:9, and on the other side are those who give loans to others but taking advantage of their indigence, take back more than what they had loaned. The state of such people who have this mentality is like the one who has been stung by a snake and is violently running about hither and thither. That is, the greed for money sets fire in their chest which keeps them uneasy all the time. The reason they produce for this act of theirs is that usury, taking more than what they had spent, is like trade. There is no difference between the two. As in trade, a shopkeeper takes from the purchaser more than he had spent, similarly in usury the one who uses his capital for loaning receives more than his principal amount. This is a lame excuse. In trade a man spends his capital and in addition to it he puts in labor. Thus anything surplus that he takes is not a profit on the capital, rather it is a return for his labor, and this is exactly the right way. On the contrary, in usury where no labor is put in, it is only a surplus gain on money loaned by him. This is unlawful. Remember the principle in this respect, that it is only the return of labor that is right, 53:39, but to gain profit on other people's labor simply by investing capital alone, is unlawful. This is what is called riba, or interest. But anybody who, after receiving this divine commandment, puts an end to his earlier ways, then that which he has received earlier belongs to him, and according to the divine law he shall not be called to account. But those who do not desist from their previous practice and persist in such dealings, these are the people whose deeds shall meet destruction. They will find no way out of the chastisement. After the above description, let us take up the comparison between usury and deeds of charity. 276.
يمحق الله الربا ويربي الصدقات والله لا يحب كل كفار أثيم.
Remember that what a man thinks increases his capital. In fact, it deprives him of all blessings, and it causes destruction not only to himself but also to his nation. On the contrary, whatever he spends for the nourishment of others and which appears to decrease his wealth, in fact, not only provides nourishment to himself but also provides means of nourishment to his nation. In usury it becomes a common mentality to keep the necessaries of sustenance hidden from others, so that the people always remain needy and compelled to take loans, and those who extend loans, on the other hand, keep enjoying the benefits on the produce of those who put in actual labor and hard work. This paralyses man's productive energies and he becomes incapacitated to keep progressing further in life. Hence a capitalist society is doomed to destruction. At another place it is stated, 30:39,
وما آتيتم من ربا ليربو في أموال الناس فلا يربو عند الله وما آتيتم من زكاة تريدون وجه الله فأولئك هم المضعفون.
That which you lend out to others so that you can recover something over and above your principal amount, you may, as per your trading norms, receive some profit, but according to the divine law it is not an increase. This appears to be an increase in your assets because you make the calculations on the basis of your personal gains, but if you think over it, keeping in view the benefit of humanity, you shall find that it is indeed no increase. On the contrary, whatever you spend for the nourishment of others, without an intent for your personal gain or compensation, but with the intent of bringing your life in consonance with the divine laws, then you shall really make an increase in your wealth. 275 to 276, 3129, 74:6. After declaring usury unlawful, previous transactions of the kind are explained. 278.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وذروا ما بقي من الربا إن كنتم مؤمنين.
O you who believe! Stay conscious of the divine laws and guard them, and what remains due against the loans, write them off, if you are indeed mu'mineen, believers. Here writing off the outstanding balances due against loanees has been laid down as a prerequisite to one's iman, belief. Following this, it has been stated that those who do not do this, 279.
فإن لم تفعلوا فأذنوا بحرب من الله ورسوله وإن تبتم فلكم رؤوس أموالكم لا تظلمون ولا تظلمون.
If you are not prepared to do it, consider it an ultimatum of war from the divine system, Allah and His Rasul, and be prepared for it, because the divine system is an open enemy of capitalism and there can be no compromise between the two on this issue. But if you retract from this practice of yours, you will be allowed to recover your principal sums, so that you neither commit an excess on the loanees, nor are you dealt with unjustly. From above, the severity of this crime, usury, can be perceived. Here the usury has been declared as a rebellion against the Islamic order, and the two are declared incompatibilities that cannot exist together. After this it is said, 280.
وإن كان ذو عسرة فنظرة إلى ميسرة وأن تصدقوا خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون.
If the debtor is in difficulty, grant him time till it is easy for him to repay. But if you forgive it completely, it would be an act of benevolence on your part if you comprehend with farsightedness what great collective benefits it contains. A verse of Surah Ali Imran, 3rd chapter of the Quran, deserves particular attention where it has been said that, 129-130.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تأكلوا الربا أضعافا مضاعفة واتقوا الله لعلكم تفلحون واتقوا النار التي أعدت للكافرين.
In this verse, as stated above, the usual translation of the words is taken as doubled and multiplied, and from this compound interest is inferred. This inference is against the basic teachings of the Holy Quran. As a matter of fact, it means that an increase on the capital alone is unlawful, be it in any form. One who provides loan can only take back his principal sum and nothing more than that. Thus the verse, 129-130, actually means, "O you who believe." Usury plays the main role in causing collapse of a social system, that is, to gain profit on the capital alone. People think that it increases wealth. Individually it seems so, but in reality it weakens the economic system and reduces national wealth. Thus, O believers, never adopt this capitalistic system of usury, always keep in mind the divine laws, that is the only way to success. If you, instead of increasing the wealth by putting in hard labor, take to exploitation of the produce of the worker, you will be doomed to the fire of destruction like those who reject the divine system. The Holy Quran says that one of the causes which brought about the destruction of the Jews was the system of usury. Thus it has been said in Surah An-Nisa, 4th chapter of the Quran, 160-161.
فبظلم من الذين هدوا حرمنا عليهم طيبات أحلت لهم وبصدهم عن سبيل الله كثيرا وأخذهم الربا وقد نهوا عنه وأكلهم أموال الناس بالباطل وأعتدنا للكافرين منهم عذابا أليما.
It was the result of such of their excesses and insurrection that the pleasantries which were lawful for them, were ordained as unlawful as a punishment. 147. The list of their crimes is very long, but briefly stating, these people always put hindrances in the way of enforcement of divine order, which is a path of bringing beneficence to humanity. They, instead of helping the indigent, exploited their needs. While giving loans to them, they took back more than what they had spent, charged interest on their capital, although they were prohibited to do so, and thus they used these tactics and others in order to eat up other people's property by foul means. They do the same even now. These are the crimes which are the cause of their miserable suffering. According to the above definition of usury, sleeping partnership in business known as madarabat, or giving land on sharing contract known as, are all included in usury. 6. Trade, selling. Usury is unlawful and trade is lawful, as has already been explained under the verse, 275. At yet another place it is said, 429-30.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل إلا أن تكون تجارة عن تراض منكم ولا تقتلوا أنفسكم إن الله كان بكم رحيما ومن يفعل ذلك عدوانا وظلما فسوف نصليه نارا وكان ذلك على الله يسيرا.
O you who believe! Eat not up your assets amongst yourselves unlawfully. In social living there is exchange of necessities, called trading. This should be conducted through mutual agreement. Under this principle everybody shall get the return of his labor, 5439, not that one exploits the other by virtue of his capital, 275. If you do so, you are destined to face destruction. Allah wants every one of you to get his part of the nourishment, as such an economic system wherein this objective is lost, cannot be a just system. After such a clear emphasis, any nation that conducts its dealings in a manner that every individual aims at causing reduction in other people's rights and as such transgresses his limits, is doomed to a speedy destruction. Any system established against the universal beneficence, contains inherent means of its destruction. B. Hand-to-hand trading transactions need not be reduced to writing, 282. Note we have seen above under the heading usury that the return is only justified against labor and not against capital. As such the profit in trade should not exceed the labor put in by the trader. It is for the Islamic order to enforce the requisite guidelines. 7. Breach of trust. A. Render back the trusts to whom they are due, 458. B. Betray not the trusts. It also includes the trusts of the government, which include all the responsibilities entrusted to you by the state, or the secret affairs which you have known on account of your being the members of the state organization. Thus it is said, 827.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تخونوا الله والرسول وتخونوا أماناتكم وأنتم تعلمون.
O you who believe! Betray not either the divine order, Allah and his Rasul, or the trusts reposed in you. You know what shall be the result of such betrayal, 458. C. Do not plead the cause of the cheats, those who betray the trusts. It has been described in detail as under, 105 to 109.
إن أنزلنا إليك الكتاب بالحق لتحكم بين الناس بما أراك الله ولا تكن للخائنين خصيما واستغفر الله إن الله كان غفورا رحيما ولا تجادل عن الذين يختانون أنفسهم إن الله لا يحب من كان خوانا أثيما يستخفون من الناس ولا يستخفون من الله وهو معهم إذ يبيتون ما لا يرضى من القول وكان الله بما يعملون محيطا. ها أنتم هؤلاء جادلتم عنهم في الحياة الدنيا فمن يجادل الله عنهم يوم القيامة أم من يكون عليهم وكيلا.
O Rasul! We have sent down to you the book, Code of Laws, so that you may judge the disputed affairs of men according to the knowledge with which Allah has provided you. And be not one advocating the cause of the dishonest. The matter of awarding judgments between people is the grave responsibility of government, and justice is a very sensitive affair. Human inclinations do tend to affect these decisions. One can escape this situation only if one remains conscious of the divine law and keeps seeking its protection. The divine law is fully equipped with means to provide such protection and nurture. Again, take note of it that you must not become an advocate on behalf of those people who betray each other or their own selves. One who betrays the trust thinks that one has gained something, but, on the other hand, it creates such a debility in his personal character that his human capabilities become infirm. That is what it means, when we say that he betrays himself. How can the divine law approve of such people? These people think that they can hide their crimes from others, but how can these remain hidden from Allah, who watches over them even when they secretly counsel by night in matters that he will not approve? Allah's law of requital encompasses all human actions, 40:19. Remember, Allah's law of requital is not such as it concerns only this world, and if one arranges to get himself acquitted from the grip of law by foul means, he is still not acquitted of its accountability. Every human action leaves its imprint on the human self, 17:14, and his self does not end with physical death, it goes on to the life hereafter. As such, the results of human action also appear after death. Therefore, if you contend on behalf of such persons or even get them acquitted from the grip of law by telling lies, say who will contend with Allah on their behalf on the day of judgment and who will be able to become their advocate. D. The believers pay special attention to their trusts and covenants, 23:8 and 78.
والذين هم لأماناتهم وعهدهم راعون.